Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be technically, I guess, step one, because we kind of did the pre-editing steps in the prior video, so I don't really consider those like some of that process behind the scenes there that I do just to get the image to where I want it to be size-wise and resolution-wise, just making sure that I can make the smoothest transition once I have the image edited. And I've been thinking about this image, Fallen Angel, and I may actually do something super, super cool in this vodcast series, which will actually be taking one of my other images that I think is fantastic. Um, that's still a raw AI image. So this may end up being a longer vodcast in terms of steps because I'm kind of thinking I want to combine another image with this image, and make it really, really extra awesome. And it may work out and it may not work out. But if you guys come along with me for the journey, we'll have a little bit of fun. And if it doesn't work out, hey, you know what? That's art, man. I was looking through my images yesterday, and just before I was getting ready to record this, I'm kind of looking at this image. I zoomed it up a little bit. You can see here we're in the CMYK version. I've talked about that 100 times. It's important to know what it's going to print like in terms of color because CMYK is how printers print, and printers can't print bright neons. They can't go super bright in certain spectrums because they use only cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which is technically black. I don't understand why they didn't just make it CMYB. Um, but it is what it is. And we're doing this one today. We're going to start first with removing some stuff that I see in this photo that I really don't want there. A lot of this base photo is very, very good. Um, but that's just me. There's some things that just don't make sense to me. That's probably too high of a zoom. That might be a little low. We'll see what we can do here. Don't really like the stick here, so we're going to start there with auto manual removal. Um, and I use this a lot. I tend to use the manual side of it instead of the auto detect side of it, just because it's fairly simple to do. And again, I'm using my scroll button on my mouse. I can go up and down with the brush size. Um, I want to get a little bit of the background behind this so it knows what to mix, but I don't want a ton of background, um, especially if I end up combining this image completely with another image, and that background might not really be there. Um, it just depends on how I determine how to combine it. Obviously, it'll be using layers, but it's whether I want the layers to sandwich the other image and then create transparency in the top layer so that the middle layer stands out only to a certain extent, or if I want to fully integrate just a portion of that other picture into this picture, which is still done at least by my standards, my abilities. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I should probably say this more often, but I'm not being paid by Cyberlink's PhotoDirector or Cyberlink itself. These are not paid vodcasts. These are not paid advertisements. It's just me showing my process, and these are the tools that I use. I'm also not paid by GIMP. I'm not sponsored by anybody at this point in time. If that does happen, obviously, we'll move forward from there, and it'll become maybe whatever the sponsorship thing happens to fall into my lap, but it'll be me still doing my images and showing you behind the scenes exactly how these things are created. So let's keep going with some object removal here. There is some little stuff on the end of this brush that I really don't like. just from the standpoint of it's a brush. It doesn't need to be super, super like sticky or bushy or stuff like that. So I'm just gonna, oops, probably go a little bigger to do that area. Do that, and then the wing here has a couple of little spots that are a little too long. They kind of don't make sense compared to the other wing. You can see the other wing is very not like that. Matter of fact, I'm going to go up higher with this. Um, Not that I have to take it down completely. I am going to give it some feathered edges there, I guess you could say. But we'll take some of that out, take some of this out, and we'll see what we get. We can always kind of chop in there a little bit better. Hey, that came out pretty cool. I mean, it chopped it right up. A little bit more removal to do down here on the bush. This is a dark area that's not great. So we'll try and see if this blends into this background a little bit more. That's a little better. Um, While I'm at it, I think I'm going to try this. I might end up undoing this solely from the standpoint of it's not really a big deal. Like it doesn't have to go. It's just kind of a darker area right there that I didn't really want. That did a nice job cleaning that up. I'm going to take a look around over here, see if there's anything that just jumps out at me, and I'm like, I really don't want that there. The sticks and stones are fine. Let's check out the wings a little bit. Stuff around the wings. Over here again, we've got some that are a little bit long for my taste. So we'll go ahead and grab those out. Not that they're, you know, break the image, make it no good. It's just I kind of like things to be the way I like them, let's face it. I don't think he really needs to be holding whatever this potential tool is. So I'm going to take that out of there and see what we get in terms of the background there. I don't really want it to be a big deal to try and take that out. Yeah, did pretty good. This other little spot here, I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. I don't like it there, so we're going to get rid of it. And, I mean, this is all part of the process. I actually move through this stuff pretty quickly when I'm doing these vodcasts because, to be honest with you, there's lots of times where I'll sit with an image and just hem and haw like over this stick. Should I get rid of it? Should I not get rid of it? So I try to, in order to keep things moving, be a little quicker on the draw when it comes to these images as I'm recording. And I know some of these videos can drag on, so I can see where you'd be like, well, that's not really, we don't see how you think that's that because um, you move pretty damn slow. So I just kind of want to, that looks like maybe it was supposed to be a shrub there. And clean it up a little bit. I'm not going to mess with it too much more. I've got lots of these little, like anything that looks like it's glowing, probably not a big deal. Some of these almost look like feathers, maybe that were supposed to be off of his um, wings, excuse me. So we'll just get rid of those. And I'm deciding what to do with the towers because there's towers on both sides of the image. Just going to take a look around up here, see if there's anything like stands out. Like that's just like some debris or something. So is that. And a lot of times with AI images, you find these things. They're just, I like to call them artifacts. They're just something that for some reason, like, why the hell is that there? um, type of thing. Like there's some stringiness here and here and here that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. And there's like a dark stick something there. Just gonna see how this stuff cleans up. It may not clean up well. We may have to hit the back button, but hey, that's art, man. I'm just trying to let the chaos out of my mind without going out of my mind, which I've been a little out of my mind lately. To be honest with you, it's very, 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 very tough to do the social media challenge that I'm doing right now. Even though I've been laid up, haven't been working, it's very, very difficult to not get burned out. And I was definitely experiencing some burnout this week. So, that's life, man. I guess when you're trying to get something off the ground, that's kind of how things go. Sometimes you get, what I'm doing with the social media stuff is a very ambitious uh 12-week program, just trying to get some traction on social media. And if you guys haven't seen those videos, they are up on the YouTube channel, obviously. And I'm holding myself accountable by having to do, I don't like that, having to do um, these weekly videos, owning up to whether I have completed my task for the week or not. Whoops. No big deal there. We're just trying to get back to take a look at the overall image. See, now one of the things I'm a little worried about is these towers and these towers. I'm not sure I want those there, so I'm going to see what I can do with those. And that might be it for the object removal. Let's see what we get just trying to clean this edge underneath his wing. I may have to get a little more technical with this. Matter of fact, I think I will, so I'll hit the escape button there. I'm just going to try this stuff first. I'm going to stay away from the wing so that if this works well, I'm going to have to kind of get up in the wing there. Not great. Let me see what it's going to do up here. We do have our back button, which if you've watched some of my podcasts, you know I tend to use quite regularly. I'm just going to outline these down to the wing and see if those pop out decently. Now that is not bad. So I'm going to try and get this bigger one. And there are some things that we can do with object clone to like move some clouds around. That's typically the easiest thing to do is to move. Like I could take this cloud right here and move it up a little bit, kind of take out some of the stuff here. I'm going to zoom back out a second and see if I'm a little happier with the way that looks over there. I might take out one more up there. So, I try to keep these things moving, but it's very difficult to. I'm really concentrating on what I'm doing. Some of this work with the mouse is a little bit intricate when you're trying to go around other parts of the picture that you don't want gone. Like, gone. I cleaned up pretty good. The only stuff is down here. Let me see how much cloud cover I got to work with. I don't have much. I've got a little bit here, and a little bit here, and a little bit here. So I may bring in some clouds just to kind of blend this in a little bit better. And I'm going to kind of take this a little at a time away from the wing. Because sometimes I have found that if you just give it enough to work with, the AI recognizes what you're trying to do, and that's not bad. Now it looks more like a rock face in the distance as opposed to towers or buildings, which is what I was going for. I don't really like that dark spot right there. Can I maybe get that to blend into the clouds a little bit? Yeah, there we go. That I like. So, I'm gonna do over here, and I think that will be about what we do on today's video. Whoops. There's that old man twitch. And if you didn't catch that, every once in a while my wrist twitches when I'm using the mouse and it'll jerk. And sometimes it makes me go way off. Sometimes it actually is in the direction of what I'm trying to cover here with this stuff. So we'll see what we get there because that came up pretty good. A little bit of a dark spot right there. See if we can get that out of there. That's a little better. Move this down just a little bit so we can get this tower. We'll see. Oops, I have to move down a little more. What we get out of this here, I'm all right with that little white puff being gone. Fill it in and see what the AI removes and how decent it looks. Pretty darn good. I like that. It even left a couple of little kind of white puffs in there. I'd rather have white puffs than dark puffs, um, simply because it's very close to cloud cover. We're dealing with the sky. I got one little spot there that I don't like. And we'll take a look back at the overall picture. Much happier with that. You know, it's far in the background and it probably didn't make that much difference in the grand scheme of things. But if I'm going to superimpose the other picture in here, that stuff is definitely something I didn't want showing up. These side rock formations may or may not affect later, but it's not like we can only do auto and manual removal once in the process. If somewhere down the line I see something and I'm like, ah, shit, I don't like that, I'll just pop back in here and take it out and see what I can do. I just noticed right dead center in the clouds. It's not too big of a deal. I'm going to see what it does here a second. It's a little bit dark, you know, right there and right here with some spines coming off of it. I'm okay with this. This kind of looks like a break in the clouds to the night sky, but that just struck my eye as something that didn't look great. And that looks better. All it did was lighten it up a little bit, make it fade into the background a little bit more. These wisps coming off the wings, kind of neither here nor there. I will probably use this as a sparkle zone in here, maybe to bring in some pizzazz as a last thing to do. You know, I do lighting is the very last thing I do. When I'm doing editing, any light effects, um, because those are the things that, you know, we've got to have everything else in place, and lighting is always last. I may do some object clone and object move last once I do the lighting. On Conjure of Death, I actually finished that whole video series and I was looking at it, and I actually brought some clouds in kind of behind the sorcerer for the final image, and that was the last thing I did on it. So lighting is not like last always. It's just kind of the last major step. And that was after I'd sat with it for a couple of days and looked at it and gone, hey, you know what? I want some clouds down here. So I just grabbed them, cloned them, moved them, and I thought it turned out a lot better. But that's what we got for today. We're going to save this as step one. So we don't need the CMYK in there anymore. We'll just put step one, make sure we're on PNG. And the reason for PNG is it is a lossless compression, whereas JPEG, which is fine for, if you're going to put a display image on your shop or whatever, putting it in JPEG is fine. If sometimes my images are so large when I go to upload them to print on demand that I have to change them to a JPEG. But as long as you don't have a background and as long as you have the ability in what the tool that you're using, PhotoDirector or GIMP, in my case, to get 100% quality, there's usually a slider, but some things don't allow you to do that. Like in JPEG here, all I can do is check this keep original photo resolution. I don't recompress photo if original is PNG and no adjustments were made. I don't have a way to go, okay, I want to make sure that you don't compress this JPEG file at all. In GIMP, I have that. So if I find that my file is too large for print on demand, which they push the limits. I get up there in the 150, 200 megabytes, which are the limits for most print on demand stuff. Um, I will convert them to JPEG, and one of the reasons I'll do that is because I always have background completely. PNG is great for if you want to leave something without a background, because it doesn't force a background into the image. So that's the difference between PNG and JPEG, at least my understanding of it and how I use it. Again, I am not a graphic designer by trade. I am learning this shit by the seat of my pants, literally, but I am loving every minute of it because I can finally get my chaos out. All this creativity I've had my whole life that I never had an outlet for. Even though I tried creative writing and stuff like that, it just was not this. And this is amazing for me. So if you've got creativity, let the chaos out, and I will see you guys on the next one.